My name is Brian Levinson, and I'm a candidate in the Lamar University Principal Certification Program. I'm currently teaching in the Houston Independent School District, and I teach at Sharpstown International School. It's a school that has grades 6 through 12, and it's also a magnet school, which means that all kids from the district have an opportunity to go to our school. I teach 3 different preps in my school. I'm a middle school Odyssey of the Mind teacher. It's a project-based learning course that has students work on a project without outside interference. Problems require critical thinking and teamwork, and they go to a competition. This year, 3 of our teams made it to state. I also teach debate. Debate has sophomore, juniors, and seniors in this class, and they compete within our local urban debate league called Huddle in Houston. And my last teaching responsibility is I'm a special education teacher teaching 9th grade remedial special education reading. I also act as a case manager. I monitor about 17 students, and I model their academics. I serve as an academic coach. I communicate with their teachers on their progress, and I also write their IEPs and lead the arts. The teacher that I'm going to be observing today is Mrs. Scott, Mrs. Shelley Scott. Miss Scott has taught for over 10 years. Miss Scott teaches 7th grade life science at our school. She has been teaching at our school for 3 years, and she's very well respected. She's actually the department head of the science department, and she is a team leader, and she's respected by her peers and all the students. The field activity that you're going to be observing in the video is part of my practicum internship. I'm required to produce th- I'm required to produce 3 videos that are created on my campus. These videos are a requirement for the Texas Education Code. In EDLD 5311, my field experience is to observe a colleague's classroom through the lens of an administrator, noting the colleague's attention to instructional strategies, differentiated instruction, and student engagement. I had the opportunity to meet with Miss Scott before I conducted my observation. We met to discuss what I would be seeing in her classroom. Mrs. Scott uses a lot of different instructional strategies in her instruction. Miss Scott shared with me the structure of her class. She begins each class with a warm up, then she does her direct instruction, followed by independent practice. The strategy is gradual release teaching. We spoke about the campus focus of thinking maps. Miss Scott uses many thinking maps in her classroom. The last instructional strategy that she uses is her focus on technology. Miss Scott uses a smartboard to assist her teaching. She finds that displaying concepts and interacting with the smartboard is a very effective tool for all her different learners. Miss Scott uses differentiated instruction when she plans her lesson. One example of differentiated instruction is when she gives an assignment. Miss Scott uses different versions of her worksheets. Based on the reading levels of her students, she provides her struggling readers with more vocabulary support and a list of vocabulary words. Miss Scott also uses differentiation by using student choice in their activities. Miss Scott assesses student engagement by monitoring her students in her class. Miss Scott feels that every student in her classroom should own the learning. She gives clear expectations and ensures that students are on task and working. Now you will see Miss Scott teaching in action.
But you guys are still getting used to. So you need to break that down. How are we gonna break this down? Who can give me one part? Okay. Producer, then what? What comes first? Primary what? Then what? Then? how would you extend those out? For this one, Bianca, what would you put? Plan, primary, Roger, what would you put? You're extending it out. First one you said what? Herbivore, and then, okay, secondary would be what? Okay, and then example of decomposer? Mushroom, fungi, same thing, right? Everybody got it? All right, let's move it on. All right, start reading for me. Right. We're going to do energy pyramids first. Hold on, start over, read louder.
Learning about energy pyramids, an organism and ecosystem is fluid of same the organism is a system of energy including moving grow with foods, data, other life activities. It means that only some of the energy will be available to the next organism to move. The diagram of an energy pyramid shows the transfer of energy to a food chain. The most energy is available at the producer base. Each step on the pyramid there is less available energy than the available low. In general, only about 10% of the energy contained in one level of the food web is transferred to the next higher level. Thus, 90% of the energy is used in life process. Because of this, most food webs only have 3 or 4 feeding levels. Each level of the pyramid is called trophic level. Trophic means nutrient being. Producers are called autotrophs. Auto means self. They are self-feeding. Consumers are called autotrophs. Tro means other. So consumers feed on other organisms or other beings. The first level of energy is pyramid means the producer of autotroph. If we have a fantasy ecosystem and say that producers have thousands of energy, kilocalories, what amount of energy is transferred to all the other resources?
Okay, so let's do our first example here. So how do we figure out, first of all, what's our producer's energy? No, from above. We're starting with what, 1,000 units, right? Then multiply it times 0.10, so what's that gonna give you? Bill, what's that gonna give you? Okay, so what happens in the energy pyramid? Does it go up or down? You what? Right, so it's kind of vice versa of what you would. So your food web, the energy points to what? What's eating, right? Okay, but then the pyramid, energy goes up or down? But does the energy go up or down, meaning bigger or lower? Down. So it's vice versa, right? Okay? So, let's do it another one. Primary consumers' energy was what, Philip? 100. So now you're going to do 100 times 0.10. And that's going to be what? 10. Okay? All right. Pick it up here for me and read. Roger?
Materials energy pyramid is set out for the principles to do not cut out of the pyramid until you are finished with the construction. So therefore, set of the pyramid, each side will have different information placed on it. 3. Label each level of the pyramid itself. With the following terms as you move up the pyramid. Producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer,
Tertiary.
tertiary consumer. 4. Place the amount of energy available for each level from the previous calculation. 5. Label each level of the heterotroph, first order heterotroph, second order heterotroph, third order heterotroph. 7. Draw a picture of what types belong to each level. First, flowers, trees, grass, algae. Second, caterpillars and cows, grasshoppers, beetles. Third, humans, birds, frogs. Fourth, giants, dogs, snakes. 8. Change the first level bottom of each side green. 9. Change the second level of each side yellow. 10. Change the level of each side blue. 11. Shade the fourth top level of each side yellow. 12. Shut off the pyramid and pull out the 98 from the center and the top.
Okay, so go to the second sheet, and you guys are gonna be making your own energy pyramid. Okay? So you're gonna have to go back and reread what Roger just read to you. And each side is gonna be labeled differently. So actually, let's look at our first side. Philip, what does it say to do?
Answer the question on the next page when you're doing the 5 pyramids of page 30.
Okay, but go back and reread on the previous page. What is the first side of the pyramid?
The first side is flowers, trees, grass.
Right. So on this, let me pull it up. Here's gonna be your first side, okay? What's gonna go on the bottom?
Lions, dogs,
Right, producers, then what? Right here? Primary consumers, and then third? Good, go ahead and do that. Okay, if you want to do this back. Okay, wait a minute. You're gonna start off with producers and what? Right here. So, this is gonna go here. Yeah. What does it start with? With what? What's the name of the here? Producer, the producer, then what? Okay, now you're gonna be going up, so then what? Starting with what? Producer, then what? Which kind? Start primary, then. So then. Okay. Start, okay, right here. So right here, guys, what's this gonna be? Producer, then what? Tertiary. So it's going up, right?
But the topic doesn't.
Tertiary, right? Okay, so what's gonna go on the second one? Who can tell me? Then what? Then. Okay, say that again. What's first? Plants, then what? Then. Then. Okay. Everybody getting me now? Yes. Okay. And so it's gonna go right here. producer, then what? Then tertiary. I haven't given it to you yet. Okay, so third row, what's gonna go on it? Start with what? Autotroph, then what? First order heterotroph, then second heterotroph, then third. So what's it say? The second one. So you did the first one, this one just Now you're going to draw pictures. it right on this smartboard, it would make this a little bit less confusing for you guys. So here, you have, what was our first one? Producer, then what? Then, okay, now we're gonna write the energy. We started with 1,000, then it's gonna go to what? 100, then what? 10, and then what? 1. Everybody getting it? Early, no? Okay. So, let me do it over here. Okay, so the first one we said is what? What is the first one? Okay, when we did the calculations with the math, we started with how much energy at the bottom? Then what? What's next? Primary what? And what's the energy going to go to? Then what? And what's that going to be? 10. Then top? Everybody getting it now? Okay? So all that you need to know is that the energy does what? So, after you have all 4 filled out, you're going to color the energy levels. So, what's the bottom going to be? Huh? So, that means all these are green, right? What's the next level? Then what? What? All right, Frank, tell me. What's the Right, start cutting out. You can do any of that, so you don't have to do the work.
Today, I had the opportunity to observe Miss Scott teaching about the energy pyramids. She started her lesson off by doing a warm up. But before I talk to you about how the class went, I want to talk to you a little bit about what an energy pyramid is. An energy pyramid is when an organism in an ecosystem eats food, it obtains energy. A diagram called an energy pyramid shows the transfer of energy through the food chain. Miss Scott had her students come into class and they all completed a warm up. and then I began my recording of the classroom observation. Miss Scott walked around while the students were doing their warm-up. There were 27 7th grade students in her class. Miss Scott used a brace map to review the warm-up. She also was very supportive of the students' answers. She had students asking questions. She asked the students questions and she had them share, and she made a great transition into the student handout. When she got to the energy pyramid, she had the students read. They were all following along while she was giving her, this was more of her direct instruction. She had it projected up on the smartboard what an energy pyramid was. She was showing the students what their assignment was going to look like for the day, and she made sure that she went over the objectives of her lesson. I noticed that she had a great rapport with her students. When she asked them to participate or to read, they took turns reading, and they all knew what was going on. She also used some formulas, and the students seemed to have used these formulas before. So it was evident that was evidence that students were connecting what she had taught previously to the lesson that I was observing. She reviewed the formulas with the students and showed them exactly what to do so that they could be successful when they were creating their pyramid. Once she got through having the students read the article about energy pyramids, she then had them review the steps that were involved into putting the information into the pyramid. And once she was done showing them where to put the information, the students had time to work on that in their groups. The teacher moved around the classroom. She checked for understanding. She redirected one student that was not doing it correctly. There wasn't really any behavior problems, but she did clarify for students that seemed like they were struggling or didn't know. And eventually what started happening is that the students at the table groups started to help their classmates. So she had a real collaborative classroom. The next step that she did was put it into independent practice using the gradual release model that I've talked to you about before we began the video observation. She really used that gradual release model so that by the time she had stopped with her direct instruction, the students knew exactly what to do and they could put it all together. Most of her students were self-directed. The teacher was checking for understanding. There was a special education student that I monitored that was sitting in the front of the classroom. That student had preferential seating closer to the teacher, and she repeated her instructions for that student, not singling them out, but she did spend some extra time working with that student, breaking down the instructions while the other students were working, and she gave the student instructions in smaller steps. And once she started working with that student started to work independently, and she moved on to continue monitoring around the classroom. About halfway through the observation, Miss Scott went up to the front of the classroom and she started to use her chart paper. And she used the chart paper to draw out the pyramid and to make sure that all the students had labeled theirs correctly. One student had messed up and in the middle just quietly got up, went to the stack by the door where the extra handouts were, didn't interrupt the teaching or the learning, picked up another worksheet and went back to her seat. And that was really great to see that the students in her classroom know how her classroom is run and what to do if there's problems. There's already routines in place. I hope that when I was going over the description of the field-based activity that I was able to talk about the instructional strategies, the thinking map, which was the brace map, her repetition of instruction, her gradual release. Her differentiation instruction would be when she went from table to table and working with this special education student. And also the student engagement was when the students were actively working on the assignment, asking questions, working together in groups, and being driven. My reflection about the field-based activity is that overall I felt like the observation went well. The content of the lesson was good. Ms. Scott did a great job of connecting the warm-up to the lesson. The students had a piece of text to connect and to refer back to with a formula. The teacher used chart paper to model. The teacher was actively moving around the room and clarifying questions for the students. The only thing that I would change is that she did spend a long time going over where to put information. Now, she did use chart paper about 15 minutes into the lesson, and my suggestion to Miss Scott would be, as the administrator, I would like to see her modeling the assignment before she stopped her direct teaching, not direct teach, independent work, and then back to the direct teach. I think that that was a waste of time because all the students were doing was labeling where information went in the pyramid. She should have started off with writing on the smartboard or having an example of the pyramid already filled out. She was calling out where the different things were supposed to go on the pyramid, but I think if she had some sort of visual on the board, it would really help her students. So my suggestion is that she needs to be modeling more. The other thing that I noticed is that there wasn't any bad behavior problems, but there was some little chatter during her instruction that could have been prevented if she would have. I think if she had that pyramid modeled on the board, it would have kept everyone busy and there wouldn't be time for like those little side conversations that can happen in the classroom. Again, she's not really a teacher that is disrespected, so I understand that she doesn't have to, get after the students, every time. But if she would have just refocused her students and maybe had that visual of the pyramid on the board, I think it would have brought the class together and it would have not left some time for the kids to have those side conversations. Some things that surprised me about this experience was this is my first observation that I've done in the program. And I just finished my master's in special education at Capella University. And when I was in my master's program, I spent a great deal of time reflecting on my own instructional practice. This first observation was me actually looking at a teacher through the lens of an administrator. So it's kind of been a shift in my view of teaching. Here, all this time, I've been looking at my instructional practice. Now, I believe that this program is starting me to look at the instructional practice of others and to be looking for ways of improving instruction. And that's also been transforming my own practice because now as I teach my lessons after this observation, I'm thinking about the things that I saw Miss Scott do right and wrong, and it's given me a new perspective about how I should be working my lessons in my classroom. This experience, I really enjoyed observing Miss Scott, and I was glad that I had this experience of observing a teacher with the view of it through the administrative lens. Thanks.